it's Caroline here from Husqvarna Viking UK, and today I'm going to be looking through our new range of Husqvarna Viking scissors. We have got 12 in the range altogether. We've got tools as well as scissors, so I just want to look at them in a little bit closer detail with you. To start with, I'm just going to show you a little bit about the packaging. So they all come individually packaged with sort of the information about what that particular scissor is. On the back there's a little description, but there's also a QR code. Now I think this is a really great little feature to have, because if you are looking at these perhaps in your local dealer shop or at an exhibition, you can just scan that QR code and it will take you directly to a short video clip just demonstrating why or how you would use that particular scissor. So if you are looking at them and you're not sure whether you might need that for the type of sewing or craft you do, that's a really useful thing to have on the back of the packaging there. And I love it, and I have used it for a couple of these myself, because there are some tools in here that I've never had to use before. Like I said, we've got 12 in the range altogether, right from your sort of your teeny tiny scissors up to your big dressmaking fabric scissors. They are all made from German forged steel, and they've all got this matte finish, which you can see here, and they've got the Husqvarna Viking branding on there as well. Really durable, and you get a really precise cutting from all of these. These are the 8-inch bent trimmers. So we'll start by having a look at these. Now, they're called bent trimmers because you can see there is a slight bend where the handle comes in, and that's to help keep the fabric flat as you are cutting. So it means you can just slice along with that blade along the table. You've got to make sure that you are comfortable using these, because if you are going to be using these a lot, cutting out lots of fabric, and I have had it before, that your wrist can start to ache and your thumb can start to ache because they're just too heavy. These are a really nice weight to have in your hand, and where you put your fingers, these are really ergonomic and fit really nicely, so you don't get any sort of unwanted pressure pushing against any of your fingers. So there are 8-inch bent trimmers, your general kind of dressmaking fabric shears, and I always go back to using these regardless of what other pairs I've got at home, because they cut the nicest and they feel the nicest to use as well. End of the scale now, and start with the smallest pair, which are the 3.5-inch curved embroidery. So you can see the tip just curves slightly up at the end here. This is to help get into those sort of hard to reach places. So if you are cutting around embellishments, trying to get into little perhaps cut underneath a button, for example. Also great for snipping threads because it curves up away from the fabric. So if you're cutting threads off like this, you're not going to accidentally cut into the fabric. Really useful to have a small pair like this in your toolkit. However, I appreciate for some they may be a little bit too small. So we have also got the 4-inch micro tip curved and micro tip embroidery. So I'm just going to pop those next to those here so you can see. Handles are slightly bigger, so they may be slightly easier, but they're micro tip, so they still go into a really small, thin point. Perfect for getting into those hard to reach areas. And again, we've got one with the curved point. So they're the sort of the 3 options of the smaller scissors in the range. So we've got some very specific scissors as well, which we're going to have a look at now. We've got 2 types of applique scissors. For example, I've got some applique shapes in the hoop that I've done on my machine. I've got to the point where I'm ready to cut around that fabric. So we've got the left hand and right hand applique scissors, and these, some people refer to them as duckbill applique scissors because of this curve on the scissor here, and that's to help stop you accidentally cutting through that base fabric when you're going around your applique shape. So as you open that out, you've got a nice blunt side of the scissor to cut around the shape. And like I said, we've got those for left hand as well as right hand. So for example, I'm cutting around, so you can see I don't want to be cutting this base fabric by accident, so that circle there is running flush against that base fabric, and I know that's not going to go through that fabric, like so. Really useful, and they've got a nice sort of curve in the handle, so you can keep them flat against the fabric as you are coming round and cutting around the shapes. Like so. We've then got the applique without that sort of duckbill. So these, so for example on this heart, you might want to get into a bit closer. So you've got the sharp point there, you can get into a little bit closer if you need to. But also these have got that slight bend in again, so you can cut around shapes, keeping those blades flat against the fabric to get that smoother and more precise cut. So they're the two options for applique. As I said, they're the same size, one's just got that duckbill, one has not. Next we have got our pair of double curved embroidery scissors. These are a really useful pair to have, especially if you do machine embroidery, because obviously if you've got your hoop on and you're trying to get to sort of certain areas, it can be a little bit tricky with just sort of a straight pair. These have got this extra bend in, so you can get right in and underneath places that you need to. Really useful for if you've got something like the embellishment attachment and you need to reach in to cut that ribbon. You can do that really easy. So there are double curved embroidery scissors. And the next pair is my favourite pair. So these are easy snips. They do exactly what they say. They snip threads really easy. So if you struggle with this sort of movement here and getting your fingers into the handles, these, all you do is squeeze to close the blades, release it to open it again. So really easy way for snipping. I use this to snip threads if I've done embroidery or at the ends of seams and things. Really easy because they've got also that little curve again, so you can cut snips against the fabric without having to worry about accidentally snipping a hole in the fabric. And like I said, really easy to use because you just have to gently squeeze them together to create the tension to cut. So they're the easy snips. As I said, I've always got those next to me when I'm sewing. Same again with the tweezers. Now these are opposable tweezers, so they work slightly differently to what you're probably used to. You squeeze them to open them and then let go, they're closed, and you've got that thread or whatever it is you're holding without having to worry about keeping that pressure on. So again, great if you've got maybe slight dexterity problems in your fingers, or you struggle to sort of keep something squeezed tight for any length of time. So these are really a popular alternative type of tweezer, and especially if you're threading overlockers and things like that. Even if you've got an air threading overlocker trying to thread the needles, the tweezers make it so much easier. And they've got a really small sort of point and curved at the head, so you can get into those hard to reach places. And as I said, once it's closed, you just have to hold it gently to guide it to where you want to go. So they're the opposable tweezers, really useful tool. This is our seam ripper. So it's really important to keep this cover because it is essentially as you can see, a very sharp scalpel-like blade. Now, it does come with spare blades, and you just unscrew this here to change the blade. It doesn't come with the blade on, so you'll have to pop that on to start with. They all come in secure little packets, but obviously you want to make sure you're always putting that on once you finish using it. Great for seam ripping, but also great if you're into embroidery and you're doing techniques such as thread velvet. So thread velvet is where the machine will stitch sort of 2 or 3 layers of thread colours over the top, and then you sort of slice through to reveal the different colours. So you can see this has been sliced and this section here hasn't. So this is a really great and easy way to cut your thread velvet. All you do is scrape that along the middle of those threads, and it will start to reveal the colours underneath, and then just sort of fluff it up, and you can see there that's start to cut those threads. So nice sharp blade to make that part of the process just that little bit easier. Okay, so that's our seam ripper. And last but not least is this little tool, which is a safety stiletto. Now, on the end here, you just unscrew that open, and that reveals the stiletto, the little point there. So you just flip that around and screw that back into place. This is really useful for turning out corners, but from the right side. So rather than having to push something through and potentially creating a hole in the corner, you can just use this nice thin point to pick out the corner from the outside to get that really nice precise turn through once you finish sewing. And once you've finished using it, you just unscrew it and hide that point away, like so. So there our lineup of Husqvarna Viking scissors. Not saying you will need every single one in this collection. Me, myself, I have got sort of 2 or 3 that I always keep near me when I am sewing. It depends on obviously what you sew and what you craft. But it's always worth having a look to see if one of these would make your life a lot easier, because it's all about having the right tool for the right job. And there may be a scissor in here that you didn't know about and that you now realise you need to help your sewing experience just that little bit better. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you all again soon.